My talk is called It's 2020, the role data can play in achieving the next decade's sustainability targets. I was here at AFCA in 2010 as a participant, and I was humbled when Sammy Kamau invited me to appear on stage as a speaker to you in 2020. What I'd really love is for all of you to be here in 2030, not just for AFCA, but for the party that will be held on this beach, because we did it, because we made coffee a beacon of what's possible in the world by actually setting out and achieving our goals. Enveritas is a not-for-profit organization. We were established in September 2016. We verify coffee purchases for traceability, sustainability, and positive impact. One of the ways we use technology is to locate coffee farms from satellite imagery. We map entire communities in growing regions. Then we identify a statistically representative sample of farms from within those communities and drop points. We send trained enumerators to those points to speak to farmers, workers, and verify sustainability conditions at those sites. Participation is voluntary and free for farmers, and all data is kept confidential. At our core, what we do is talk to farmers and capture their work, their challenges, and their successes. We go talk to farmers like Cecilia in Guatemala, a young female farmer with just one cuerda of coffee, to Joao in Brazil, whose farm is mechanized, and to Shibiro in Ethiopia, who has 3.5 hectares of young coffee growing at over 2,000 meters. We're a young organization, but this is not a pilot project. This is what we do, and we're doing it in 20 coffee countries this year. We began in Uganda because we knew that if our platform didn't work in Africa, it didn't matter if it worked in Costa Rica or Brazil. It had to work where the majority of the world's coffee farmers live, not just where the majority of the world's coffee gets produced. Last year, we covered about a third of the world's coffee producing communities, and this year our goal is 50%. Once we start working in a country, we want to adapt our technology and develop our teams to verify all of the coffee regions in that country. Some countries have hundreds of regions, and our aim is to verify each region each year. We hope to be at 100% coverage in over 20 countries in the next 24 months. And so this is what we see. This is a snapshot of what we observed across 1/3 of the coffee world this past year. Let me explain what's going on here. Each vertical slice is a community of coffee farmers somewhere in the world. There are 416 slices on this page, each representing a community of coffee farmers that we verified last year. The colors in this graphic represent the state of progress on a particular sustainability topic. Green means more progress, red means less progress. I'm going to talk about 8 issues, and each bar going across represents one of those issues. The first is poverty. 2 out of every 5 coffee farmers lives below the $3 a day poverty line. What I've done here is actually sorted the chart by poverty levels. So on the left, where you see the darkest red, you have communities where most farmers live below the $3 a day poverty line. And then on the right, you have communities that are dark green, and extreme poverty is no longer an issue. Deforestation. What we see across the world is that it's mostly green here, but with lots of pockets where things are yellow. Child labor. It's a mix, with some yellows and reds in different parts of the graph. Next, we see banned pesticides and minimum wage. These are hotspot issues for many sustainability schemes. And one thing that you'll see with both issues is that there's lots of dark green on the left and then again on the right of this graphic. This makes sense once you think about it. The poorest farms don't purchase any pesticides or hire any workers, so of course there aren't any issues there. But as incomes increase, they probably will be. And then all the way to the right, you have the other extreme, farmers who are all green by design, not by default. Clean water. This correlates very closely with poverty. Productive trees. Lots of red here. This captures age of trees and whether they're reaching a reasonable level of productivity given the agronomic conditions in their area. And finally, access to training, which is also mostly red across the coffee world. We could talk about this chart for days. We could talk about other issues too, like income, quality, soil conservation, farm gate price, and many more. But if there's one takeaway that you get from this graph, let it be that no one is all green. No one is done even with those 8 issues. So that's some of the bad news. But the good news is that the data also shows clear signals of improvement, things that are working. First off, while a lot of our work is about verifying entire communities and regions of farmers, we also verify fully traceable groups of farmers, like cooperatives, farmer programs organized by exporters, and outgrower schemes. We can compare them to similar farms in the same region. When we do that, a number of differences stand out. One of the leading indicators is access to training, and here we see levels that are 95% higher than a regional baseline for those same areas. We can also go very deep into specific issues and look at change over time. For example, in Vietnam, a recent ban on paraquat has been enforced. Across the 54 communities that we work in there, we've seen a 57% drop in paraquat use in just 1 year. El Salvador was one of the countries most affected by the Roya outbreak, and was also among the countries least equipped to help farmers rebuild. World Coffee Research, for example, is working hard to establish nurseries and help farmers replant with new varietals. This year, 65% of farmers in our sample were replanting a portion of their coffee farm in the last year. And finally, in Uganda, we see a strong link between helping farmers access formal financial products like savings and credit and a reduced likelihood of children missing school to help with coffee farming. Now, what's not shown here is the follow-up question. If paraquat use is dropping, what's it being replaced with? If farmers are replanting, which seed are they using and where are they getting it from? Well, we can talk about those things too. But data and insights are only valuable if they can be acted upon. And here we come to the final part of our work. We verify buyers' actions and contributions to work on these issues. One thing buyers can do is engage with their suppliers, have honest, open conversation about these issues, and from there create targets and incentives for improvement. We have tools for doing this depending on the context, for large estates, groups of smallholders, multinational exporters, small mills, producer associations. We've done it all over the world, with buyers large and small. The second thing is to join collaborative initiatives. It's difficult to address systemic issues like child labor or varietal research through supply chains. You need collaboration between public and private sector. We have MOUs with a number of such initiatives and share analysis and insights to help them have more impact. Farmer support. Buyers funding training on topics like agronomy and quality improvement. Before Enveritas, I spent 10 years at TechnoServe working on these types of projects and saw firsthand how impactful farmer support programs can be. Financial inclusion. Many improvements require financing. Buyers can underwrite this kind of work through the trade or through nonprofit partners, including several of my panelists here on stage. And finally, progress transparency. This is probably the hardest because we need to upgrade our definitions of progress and upgrade our definitions of transparency. It starts with a public commitment, but a commitment is only meaningful if there's pressure to achieve it. And that's your responsibility. If there's no focus, there's no pressure. I don't know what this chart would have looked like 10 years ago. We as Enveritas certainly couldn't do the work that we do today because the technology just wasn't there 10 years ago. But even if we had the data and used that to inform where we hope to be in 2020, I don't think that vision would have looked like this. No one wanted to end up here. This was not the goal. We can talk about individual criteria, the definitions, the statistical methods, and the margins of error. But in your heart of hearts, I think you know that this is roughly where we are right now, that this isn't the place that we want it to be, that we can do better. Doing better requires being transparent about our progress and being able to separate the signal from the noise. We've created a platform that lets you do that, that's free for farmers and that costs roasters less than a Grain Pro bag. So the time for not knowing is over. If you share this vision for what the coffee sector can do over the next 10 years, then I hope you'll also share my sense of urgency, to act, to improve, to listen. So please come talk to us, and thank you for your attention.